Absolutely magnificent. If it's as good as this, we'll be doing well. I think this pasta recipe was made just for me. Well, I think I created it, so I suppose it was. And I'll tell you why. Let's have a... Oops, sorry, guys, I just knocked that. Let's have a look at the things that are in it. Chili flakes, capers, anchovies, 2 different types of olives, garlic, tomatoes, and some really nice canned tuna. All my things that I like very much. So first of all, just grab a wok. I've got some pasta here, by the way, and I'm using penne rigati. Penne ziti rigati. I call it small penne. Mr. Develler, I need simpler terms that I can pronounce. He'll ring me up and he'll say, Mr. Hewitson, your Italian is woeful. He's quite right. I have enough trouble speaking English, don't I? All right, I've got a couple of cloves of garlic there. We'll throw those in. I've got also about a teaspoon of dried chili flakes that I'll throw in as well. Now, I'd like this garlic to get a little bit of colour, and I put a decent amount of olive oil, sorry, I forgot about that, about 4 tablespoons. But I'd like the garlic to get a little colour, but certainly not burnt. So just keep a real careful eye. Don't wander off. That's coming along quite well. It's starting to get a little bit of colour. So now we put 2 punnets of cherry tomatoes. Look, I'll just show you what I've done. I've cut them in quarters and then I've cut them in a half crossways. So we'll put 2 punnets of those in. And to that we will then add some salt, sea salt, quite a bit, and a bit of freshly ground pepper. Not too much because you've got those chili flakes. And I'm just going to cook this until those tomatoes start to collapse a bit, which won't take long. So it's sort of a semi-raw tomato dish, sort of half and half, to be honest. I don't want a sauce as such. I just want them to collapse a bit. And keep an eye on your pasta. Now, I always take notice of the packet. Let's just have a look and see what Mr. Develler says about it. He says 9 minutes. I promise you it'll take 9 minutes. See, that's starting to collapse a bit. You can see how they're breaking up just slightly. So we're pretty close with that. Right, we'll turn that off and we'll start adding a few things. As I said, I didn't say that. I said anchovies, but about 8 anchovies which I've chopped up. Just throw those in. Good tablespoon of capers, which I have rinsed really well. And also about 4 large green olives and half a dozen black. I've pitted them and then I've sliced them very finely. So I'll throw those in. Now, I'm not going to throw the tuna in until I put the pasta in here because I don't want it to break up too much. I don't want it to be an absolute mess. I want it to keep it... That's a ridiculous thing, an absolute mess. That isn't what I meant. What I meant was a fine sort of jumble. I wanted to have a little bit of texture to it. And I've got some Italian parsley, which I'll also just throw in there. A couple of tablespoons of that. And it's a good-looking sauce, guys. And what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll throw in the pasta when that's ready, and the tuna, and maybe a little olive oil, and also a magic last ingredient. I bet you can almost guess cheese of one sort or other. You're right. Well done. Now, our pasta's pretty close, I would say. Yep. So let's just get that out into our sauce. See, I find this an interesting dish because, as I said, sort of the sauce is semi-cooked. but the heat of the pasta will heat it up. But you've still got that textural thing, so you haven't cooked it down so that everything becomes part of the sauce. And I'm talking about things like the olives and anchovies and things. They are still there separately. So you'll get explosions of flavour through the dish as you eat it. So to get all these different explosions, which I hate, I was going to say. Whoa, Iain, I love. It confused myself. I once saw Jerry Lee Lewis play, you know, the piano player, singer from America, and I saw him, and there was a review afterwards, and they said he not only confused himself, but the band as well. Well, I was getting a bit like that, wasn't I? So a couple of cans of top quality tuna. Fold that in carefully. That's looking good. Let's just grab a bowl and a pair of tongs if I've got them. Let's see, have I got tongs? Of course I have. Got millions of them. I think it could do with a little bit more olive oil over the top. It's up quality, extra virgin, of course. Just a smidgen. It just moistens it a bit, and we'll just make sure we've got all these lovely bits and pieces in there. Good stuff. And to finish, see the cheese? Pecorino would go nicely with this. A little bit of touch of pepper will go beautifully. And I always serve some more at the table, or even just the cheese mill. All right, a lovely simple pasta dish, all the flavours I like, and I hope you like them too, but you can adjust it to suit yourself. You could leave the anchovies out if you must. I'm not going to be very happy with you, but you can. I know how some people absolutely hate them. Anyway, I think this is a ripper dish, and I'm going to enjoy it exactly as it is. Now, I've told you before how much I really dislike the practice that many pizza shops have of putting raw mushrooms on top of their pizzas, because to me, they need to be cooked. Raw, they just taste, I don't know what they taste like. I'm trying to think what they taste like, but it's not very pleasant, whatever it is. Anyway, I'm not making a pizza. I'm making a tart, but I'm making a cheese and mushroom tart, and I'm sautéing my mushrooms, which to me is terribly important. So I start off with some oil and some butter, just in a frying pan. When the butter melts, we'll start thinking about our mushrooms. And just while that's happening, let's have a thought about the tart itself. Just grab some frozen short crust. Use puff if you want, but I think this works well with short crust. And then we just cut it in half like that. Is that half? Let's have a look. No. Well, wasn't that far off. And all I'm then going to do is put it on my baking tray. Sorry I disappeared on you then, Brendan. I was naughty. So that goes on there. And I've just got some cheese here. I've got 100 grams of Gruyere, and I've got 100 grams of extra tasty cheese. And to that, I'm going to add a couple of eggs, just to help it spread a bit. You can leave the eggs out if you wanted to. And while I'm doing that, I'll just throw an egg into that milk for my egg wash. And we'll just mix this up. And I'm keeping an eye on my butter over there. It's all right. So just mix that together. So that's just the 200 grams of cheese. This is enough for quite a few. I won't be putting all this on those little two ones there. Little two ones, those two there. Onion. You add garlic if you want. I haven't bothered. Just half an onion, fairly finely sliced, and also some mushrooms. Just sort of a reasonably largish button, but still button, but, you know, sort of on the larger side. And we'll throw those in, put some salt in with it, and some pepper. And back to our cheese. Now, if you just stay there, Brendan, or you can move back, but if you just sort of stay around there, I'll bring that over there just to make life a little easier for you. So, onto our tart there. Now, not too much of it, but do leave an edge as well. If you do too much, what will happen is the cheese will just take over. If you love cheese, that's fine, I suppose. So just spread it out with your very clean hands. And if you're not keen on that, you can always put some gloves on, but it's easier than doing it with a fork or a spoon or anything. And I'll just do that with my chucks and just have a look at this.
Good things really do come in small packages.
This is my small space.
We can't all be blessed with a big backyard.
I'm taking it in.
So let Monty help you make the most of what you do have.
The most important thing is simplify it.
With a little ingenuity and a lot of imagination, you can turn your small space into something wonderful. The Monty Don of gardening is back in a new season.
Enjoy the process and it will come good.
Big dreams, small spaces. Starts Wednesday, 9:30 on Lifestyle.
Debt. Gone. Stress. Gone. Hassles. Gone. Too much debt? Beyond Debt has helped thousands of Australians with debt problems. You do have options. If you have debts of $8,000 or more, call Beyond Debt for a free consultation. Don't put it off. Life's better when you're Beyond Debt. Call 1300 871 603 now for a free consultation, or go to beyonddebt.com.au.
As the world's most grueling cycling championship races towards another milestone, Eurosport will be there. Home favourite Vincenzo Nibali returns to reclaim his trophy. So will the competition. And every cycling fan. Giro d'Italia 2017, live on Eurosport.
Looking good. Now, just grab our mix, just about a quarter of a cup of milk, maybe half a cup and an egg, and just beat it reasonably well. Now, I know I've got a pastry brush somewhere. It was right there in front of me. Well, I did have it somewhere right in front of me. And just paint the edge. This just gives it a lovely colour and helps it to rise. Or when it rises, it gets a lovely colour, I suppose you'd really say, wouldn't you? And you can just use egg yolk by itself if you like, but I like it mixed in with the milk. And always remember, if you've got any of that left over, what you do is you use it to make scrambled eggs. You put some extra egg in it, and you've got your basis for scrambled eggs. In here, we put some thyme. We also put a small clove of garlic, optional. And we continue to cook that. I'm going to add the rest of those mushrooms. I know I shouldn't do it now. I should have done it at the beginning. But mushrooms do sort of shrink a bit, don't they? Now, we're just going to cook that tart base until the cheese has melted, got a nice colour to it. Now, of course, unlike puff pastry, it's not going to be all puffy. but with that egg wash on it, it'll still have a nice colour. I reckon I could eat it just like that. It looks lovely, doesn't it? Really does. So all we're going to do now is try to do this reasonably neatly and put these cooked mushrooms on top. Don't cover up the cheese completely. You still want, you know, your 3 layers, don't you? You know, like you've got your cheese there, you've got your pastry, and now you've got your mushrooms. I think this is going to be a ripper, guys. I really do. And of course, you don't have to do mushrooms. You could do something else, some other vegetables. Use your imagination. It's up to you. All right, there we go. Now I'm just going to put that into the oven. And mainly all I'm really doing is reheating those mushrooms. So it'll only be for 5 minutes tops. Make sure you don't burn the pastry, of course. And there we will have what I think is a delicious tart with cheese, mushrooms, a little bit of thyme, you know, just to give it that little bit of herby flavour. I think you'll enjoy this dish. I know I'm going to. Now, when I was a little kid, my mother often made oat cookies. Now, I'm not saying they were like this, because they didn't have as much dried fruit in them, but they were terrific biscuits. So we're going to have a shot with this. Haven't made it before. Here we go. I should try out the dessert course, because it's not my strength. When I say dessert, pastries or desserts or, what shall we say, biscuits, cakes. I really should try them out, shouldn't I? I'm naughty. Right, anyway, we'll see how we go. First of all, we've got 100 grams of golden syrup in that pot, and to that we're going to add 175 grams of butter, unsalted, and 175 grams of brown sugar. And we're just going to cook that until that butter is melted. And over here I've got this is a real fascinating thing. Now, this is very complicated. I've got some boiling water. That's for this dish, it's all right. Just plain water, which is boiling. Now, the other ingredients for this. First of all, we've got 85 grams of plain flour with half a teaspoon of bicarb in it, 250 grams of pudding oats. Are they called pudding oats or rolled oats? But not the instant ones. Please, not the instant ones. Teaspoon of cinnamon, 80 grams of dried cherries or dried cranberries, and they've been diced. 100 grams of dried apricots, which have also been diced. And 100 grams of crystallised ginger, which have been diced. Now, we're not going any further with that at the moment, because we have to add this liquid once that butter is melted. So just keep an eye on that for me, please. So you don't cook this at all, you just melt the butter. And just while I'm stirring this, I suddenly realised they're porridge oats. That's what they are, not pudding oats. Where did I get pudding from? Well, I suppose they both start with P, porridge oats. But as I said, not the instant variety. All right, this is nearly ready. As I said, you don't want to cook it. All you want to do is melt that butter. And that is very, 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 very close. And I'll just pour that in. And we'll just mix that together. All right, now, what we next do is we grab an egg, and we're just going to give that a light beat, and we're going to throw that in too. I'll just grab a fork, guys, sorry. No, I won't. I won't grab a fork. I'll grab a spoon. And that goes in. We mix that up too. And last but not least, we grab our boiling water, because I know you were sitting at home and saying, hey, what's the water doing? Well, the water's doing this, 2 tablespoons of boiling water. Goes in there as well. Now let's just grab like that and onto baking paper, which is sitting on an oiled tray. It's quite a sloppy mixture, but don't worry about that, because what you're after is that lovely sort of chewy sort of biscuit, aren't you? You know the chewy one I mean? All right, that'll do for 1 tray. And I'll just clean my hands, just a second or 2, and we'll shove it in the oven. 160 degrees, guys, and for about 15 or 20 minutes. That'll bring you a nice chewy biscuit. If you want something a bit firmer, turn the heat down to 140 and cook it for about another 10 minutes. But I have to be honest, I prefer the idea of the chewy style. That's just me. I suppose because that's what my mothers were like. Just make sure that they're a bit together, because as I said, it really is a sticky dough. Right, into the oven. I've told you the instructions. Yes, I have. Of course I have. I've told you about 3 times, I think. Here we go. Some lovely biscuits made with porridge oats. See? My memory's not that bad. Now, just before I leave, and you all rush into the kitchen and start cooking up a storm, here's a quote from that wonderful BBC programme, Robinson's Travels. He said, the national dish of America is menus. It's a river. Cheers, guys.